Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Disney Plus and how it is going to be sanitized for your protection.
That's right.
Sanitized for your protection. Yeah, Disney is going to sanitize some of its classic movies when they make their way to Disney Plus, and some controversial movies will never be available on the platform because we have to pretend we didn't make them.
Song of the South.
One controversial movie will never make it onto the platform because we have to pretend we did not make that movie. So before we get into the video, please subscribe if you guys have not done so already, and make sure you're still subscribed. YouTube's got some shenanigans going on. They're unsubbing people. Make sure you're subscribed. We're at almost 72,000 subs, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot. That is a lot. It's a lot more than we had last year.
Yes, it's a lot more we had last year.
That's a lot more we had just like 3 or 4 months ago, so thank you for the support. All right, so we got a lot to unpack here. We're going to talk about Disney Plus and Disney and how they sanitize things. We're going to talk about how there actually are pretty notable Hollywood celebrities who are pushing for Song of the South to be released. And we're going to talk about just the mindset now that, you know, young people just apparently... they can't deal with the reality that history was not often pretty.
Here's the thing. If you don't learn from it, you're doomed to repeat it. So
exactly.
Let's erase it. And, you know, I remember another regime that tried to erase things and burn books and stuff. And I'm just saying,
Yahtzee!
There's a lot of similar behaviors. But they like to use that word to call everybody else, but why they themselves behave in such a manner.
That
anyway
is not untrue. Okay, so this we got a couple versions of the story we'll talk about. Some Disney movies won't appear on Disney Plus. They're talking about how some of the newer films like Lion King, Maleficent, and Aladdin are not going to be on there because they want you to buy the Blu-ray.
Right. We talked about it before. We wondered if they were going to do that.
Obviously. Mm-hmm. So Song of the South won't make Disney Plus because of its controversial nature. The film tells the story of a man named Uncle Remus who tells the story of a rabbit, fox, and bear.
But yet it can make it into the theme parks.
It can make it into theme parks. Yes, Splash Mountain is basically Song of the South, the ride.
Yes, that's okay.
That's
okay.
You
cannot put it on the Disney Plus streaming service because we have to protect people from watching things they might not like because, you know, how about you just don't watch it if you don't like it? That's what they told me all the time. You don't like She-Ra? Just don't watch it then. Don't like Song of the South? Just don't watch it then.
Yeah,
problem solved.
We're going to talk about that. The fact that they've never made it available lately. I think it was on, I want to say it was on VHS back in the 80s, but it hasn't been available for a very, very long time. And it's actually doing, it's sort of become the Streisand effect there, where people are like, what's the big deal with this movie? Then they watch the movie and they're like, that's it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, that is it? So critics say the film presents a racist and offensive portrayal of African Americans leaning on stereotypes. It was the 1940s.
Yeah, it's too bad. You know, it's you know, we don't lean on stereotypes now, except for all the stereotypes that we lean on.
The film also reportedly glorifies the plantation system in the U.S. post-Civil War. Similarly, the Jim Crow character in Dumbo will be edited out. A post-credit blooper scene from Toy Story 2. In that scene, the character Stinky Pete interrupts 2 female Barbie characters, offering them a role in the next movie and taking one of their hands. Critics said the scene was too reminiscent of the Me Too era.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
That's really kind of stretching. So now Disney's sanitizing its movies for current year. But you know what? This is not unusual. Disney has a long history of doing it. But there are actually more. So beyond Dumbo, beyond, which I can kind of see, I guess. Toy Story 2, that's kind of reaching. But Lady and the Tramp, they said they're reinventing the Siamese Cat song. Yeah. So they're doing that for the live action version. Are they going to have the animated version with the Siamese Cat song?
No, I'm sure I mean, I don't know. That's for live action or for...
For the live action remake. Yeah, they took the Siamese Cat song.
I don't know. They're not saying.
So
they'll probably take it out.
Here's the thing. Like, Disney's very selective about what they edit out. I think it's basically whatever gets the most complaints, or preemptively they try to stave off complaints. Peter Pan and its portrayal of Native Americans.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I just want to put that out there.
Oh, don't give them ideas. We'll take that off next.
Well, people have been saying that for years. They're like, why is Song in the South being buried when you've got Peter Pan that could be considered as offensive, and they even have those Native American characters in the rides in Peter Pan's
Flight. They have Song of the South in the ride. They have 2 rides dedicated. Well, 1 ride, 2 different parks dedicated to the film.
So CNBC broke this. I saw it on Twitter. and they talked together. They actually brought up Splash Mountain. And now Splash Mountain was built in the 1980s, and that was the last time Disney even...
That's the last time people had common sense?
Yeah, I think so.
80s
Disney
and 90s?
even mentioned Song of the South. Now, I worked on Disney Comics for a number of years that actually featured the Brer characters. Brer Rabbit, Brer Bear. Obviously, Uncle Remus was not in those, but those characters were very, very popular in the comics.
Which is more offensive? The fact that they have these characters still out there, the fact they took out the black man from it. I'm just saying, because you still have the characters, you still have the story, you're still using the elements of the story, but you took out the character that was pivotal to the story, and you know, are there stereotypes in it? Yes, there are stereotypes in it. However, it was made at a time when this kind of stuff was a risk to even make, because it was like, oh my God, you can't do a movie like that with someone like this in the lead, and he did it anyway.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing too. Actually, there's a little bit of a history there. I guess Walt was actually warned not to make the movie.
Yes.
But he went ahead and did it anyway. But now this is interesting. The very first thing, Whoopi Goldberg, very progressive. A lot of people are like, Whoopi's very far left. She's on The View. She's got opinions, right? Whoopi Goldberg, the very first thing she wanted when she became a Disney legend 2 years ago is she said, we need to release Song of the South.
I agree.
She said she grew up watching it. She said, hiding it is actually doing a disservice, because you're not owning up to the fact that the company made this movie. She said that she believes it's time the film was made available again to the American audiences in its entirety, trying to find a way to get people to start having conversations about bringing Song of the South back so we can talk about what it was and where it came from and why it came out.
Right, because it came out because, well, one, there's clearly a misunderstanding of what actually it was like. But Walt did it because, he was told not to do it, but he did it anyway. And he probably did it to the stereotypes to appeal to the audiences, to get them to come into the theater. You know what I mean?
It was a product of its time.
It was a product of its time, right.
I think from what I recall of it, Walt Disney's intentions were good. He liked the Uncle Remus stories. They used to read the Uncle Remus stories to us in school, So his intentions were okay, but the way, it was a product of its time.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your intentions are, because the internet now can't handle it. They can't handle the past. Everything has to be changed to appeal to these people now who don't want to hear it.
Well, this is interesting too. The same interview. Now, remember, this is 2 years ago. This is Whoopi Goldberg giving an interview now that she's a Disney legend. She said in the same interview, which can be seen below, she goes on to say that she wanted to see new merchandise featuring the jive talking crows from Disney's 1941 classic Dumbo. I want people to start putting the crows in the merchandise because those crows sing the song in Dumbo that everybody still remembers.
Really,
When I see an elephant fly. So they're going to cut that number from Dumbo, which was already a very short movie. Dumbo was like, I don't even think it was an hour long.
Was it?
It was short. It was very short.
I haven't watched it in a while.
It's interesting though that she actually did appear before the Looney Tunes DVDs to deliver a message that it's possible to enjoy the Warner Brothers cartoons without necessarily endorsing their outdated characterizations. That's what they should do.
Well, here's what she said. And this isn't, I agree with her. Some of the cartoons here reflected some of the prejudices that were commonplace in American society, especially when it came to treatment of racial and ethnic minorities. These jokes were wrong then and they're wrong today, but removing these inexcusable images and jokes would be the same as saying they never existed. So they are presented here to accurately reflect a part of our history that cannot and should not be ignored. Basically, if you don't, if you forget the past, you can't learn from it and move on.
Right.
If you bury it, it's going to happen. It's going to happen again. The only thing my takeaway from it was the fact that the person who played Uncle Remus actually won an Academy Award for it. And and I think when you bury it, it does a disservice to him, because then he was the first black male performer to receive an Oscar, and we're going to hide the movie and pretend it didn't exist. So you're taking away the recognition for him even, and I just don't think hiding things is the answer.
I mean, think about that. I mean, it was bad enough he wasn't even able to go to the film's premiere because it was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
But the fact that was such an amazing accomplishment, and he died young. He died in his mid-40s. And that was such an amazing accomplishment for the time, and they just want to pretend it didn't happen.
Right, and that's just the thing. It's like they all want to pretend it didn't happen. Kill the past, destroy the past, kill it if you have to. You can't do this, because what happens is that no one is brought up knowing about what happened. Like, they want to get rid of World War II being taught in schools because it's difficult. Yes, it's difficult. It was a lot of things that were bad that should never have happened. But by ignoring it, pretending it didn't happen, that's even more disservice to all the victims that it happened to and their families and their descendants. You cannot go on through life just closing your eyes and saying, it's not there, I don't want to see it anymore. It makes me feel bad inside.
Makes me sad.
You know what? Maybe the problem with kids and stuff anymore is the problem with kids today is that the shows are all sanitized for them.
Yeah. Well, even you look at the kids' entertainment and how sanitized it is. Now, we grew up watching Looney Tunes and we grew up watching, Dumbo with the crows in it, and it didn't seem to affect anyone negatively. We'll talk about the Instagram thing here in a minute, but just to point out the difference between Disney and Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers still releases its classic entertainment, but they have this notice up. They're like, look, it was a product of its time. We know these attitudes were wrong, but we're talking about entertainment that's like 60, 70, 80 years old.
You're taking teachable moments away and just like it didn't happen. You don't have to agree with what happened. You don't have to, but you learn from it and you teach from it. And if you pretend these things didn't happen and you don't acknowledge their existence, like I said, it's going to be generations that have come up and they have no knowledge of it.
Well, you said about people, calling for stuff to be removed, and this is a pretty new thing, because I came across this article when I was looking for information on this, and we have this teacher talking about how dangerous it is to even give kids the inkling that something bad might happen.
Irony, I just said about teachable moments.
Yes, that's right.
So,
but there's a petition on change.org talking about how Song of the South should be released, and we should be able to make our own decisions. But this Dr. Rosemary Allen, an education professor from Metropolitan State University in Denver, says this content doesn't need to be seen by children. Why would we place these inappropriate images about people in the minds of young children only to educate them about taking them out? Let's not place them there in the first place. Dr. Allen says watching a movie with racial stereotypes can be dangerous. You are totally unaware that they're there, and it really becomes your truth.
Whoa, wait a minute. I would agree with her if you're totally unaware that they're there. However, there's no way in Hades these kids are totally unaware that this stuff's out there. It's constantly, I've never seen more racial bullcrap as I've seen in the last, since my lifetime, since I've seen in the last few years. So don't tell me they wouldn't know about the stereotypes if they didn't see this movie, because I'm telling you, they're there no matter what, and it's much more magnified now than I've ever seen it, and it's pointless, and I blame the media.
Yeah,
I blame the media.
I think it's media, and I think it's academia, too. If I remember correctly, I don't have that information offhand, but if I remember correctly, I think it was Maya Angelou who raised some questions about Song of the South, and Disney just completely freaked out and banned it because they're like, oh my God, we can't have Maya Angelou talking smack about Song of the South. Let's hurry up and pretend we never made this movie.
Well, how come there's a lot of people talking smack about Captain Marvel and they don't hide that?
I know, right? It's like, it's very selective what they sanitize. But I guess to wrap this up, what you're saying, like, kids today are sheltered and they can't handle the truth.
I agree with her. You don't have to expose kids to things like, if they don't know about, I'm not saying don't teach them at all that it happened, but I'm saying if they don't know about that particular instance and it would be more harmful than good, then yes, in that case, as a parent or as a teacher, I can make the decision to not show my children. But that shouldn't take that decision away from other parents or other educators who want to show that, because it's relevant to what they want to teach their children. But I don't think you can, with the way the climate is today, not showing Song of the South isn't going to change some of the stereotyping we're seeing today. Like I said, I'm seeing so much racism, hatred, BS now. When we were kids, it wasn't like this. No, it's like being back in the 60s again or 50s again. It's ridiculous.
And, are the two things connected? Because, 80s kids, we grew up, with the entertainment was not sanitized.
Yeah. And we knew about what happened, but we knew that was unacceptable behavior not to repeat it. But I'm seeing people repeating it like crazy now.
Yeah. So, this whole thing reminds me of an article that came out last week about an Instagram influencer. God, the ads on this site are ridiculous, and I can't put the blocker on because they won't let me view the content. But this 22-year-old Instagram influencer claims that learning about World War II would hit millennials' mental health.
Well, you lost me once with Instagram influencer. I'm like, wah, grow up. You know what? Oh, he looks like a real winner. Anyway, what I'm just saying is, he looks like Oh my God, he looks like I was such a whiner.
God, so he's going on about Brexit, and now he's from the UK. He told Good Morning Britain they think schools should trim back what they teach about World War II. It was
They already trim it down a lot now.
It was a hard situation, World War II. I don't want anyone to think I'm being disrespectful.
Well, you kind of are.
Yeah, I know. I remember learning about it as a child thinking, oh my God, it's so intense.
It was intense. Not teaching it to kids today doesn't make it any less intense. In fact, it is a disrespectful thing to do to the victims of World War II. World War II was awful, and there was a lot of innocent people died, and it was even then you wonder how this could have happened. How could something like this have even happened? Well, not teaching it is not the way to go about it, because you need kids to understand. Like, that's what I think is going on with TV today and stuff. When we were kids, we had to deal with hard shit. Secret of Nim, Dark Crystal. You know,
yeah.
My Little Ponies were flipping, fighting almost practically Satan and everything else, and you had to learn, like, you know, you had to learn what was right from wrong. You had to learn hard, or you're given hard lessons. They stuck with you. You might have been traumatized. Bridge of Terabithia, oh my God, you're traumatized, but you know, you're traumatized because you learned something. Not saying you should traumatize children, but what I'm just saying is, then people from our generation grew up that we could actually handle conflict. We could actually handle reality. Their answer is, let's pretend reality never happened because I don't like it. It makes me sad.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's what's going on now.
Welcome to the real world. You cannot function in the real world.
They're not living in the real world. And the thing with World War II is, because of that, because of the sacrifices of servicemen and women in various conflicts, you have the freedom to say stupid things like this. You could never survive on your own. You need to.
He doesn't look like he could survive on his own.
Like, you know, it's so. I mean, there were people younger than you dying to prevent horrible people from taking over the world.
They need safe spaces because the person they wanted to win for president didn't get elected. Meanwhile, there are people younger than, you know, that are kids out in other countries being not even wanting to, being forced out to fight and being put in war and being traded for slaves and different things like that. But, you know, we don't want this 22-year-old to have to think about what really actually legitimately happened to somebody younger than him or somebody his age, because that makes him sad inside.
Yeah, this is beyond parody. Like, I mean, just this mindset that, you know, we have to erase history. This is a prime example of what happens when you're not exposed to conflict, when history is sanitized for your protection. You say stupid things like this.
I'm sorry, but these shows don't help. When there's a bad guy, all you have to do is sing and hug it out. You know what? Go stand up against, the real Yahtzees and say, okay, let's just hug it out and see what happens. Because it doesn't work that way.
No, and not everybody's. It's so funny because people are like, well, if we could just talk to our enemies, maybe we could all be friends. I'm like, you've been watching too much My Little Pony. In the real world, unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way.
Some people, you can talk to them and they're going to tell you what you want to hear, and then they're going to backstab you and do bad things to you anyway. And that's what, there's a reason why people are evil, because they're evil. You can't talk out somebody who's, a mass murderer because they just hadn't met you yet.
Yeah, right. Like, how arrogant are you? But this sounds so familiar. I don't think encouraging death or telling people how many people died in the World War is going to make it better. This sounds an awful lot.
Oh my God.
But doesn't this sound an awful lot like, why should we place these inappropriate images about people in the minds of young children only to have to educate them about taking the images out? This, again.
I mean, I see her point, but, in regards to Song of the South, but, it's not taking it out again, because that stuff's coming back around. And I'm not just saying against black people, it's against a lot of people of different races, genders, sexual identity, religions. The last few years have been really, really, really polarizing and bad, and we're seeing the same things. So you're not taking anything out.
Here we have a comment from Jennifer. My great uncle at 17 was part of the D-Day landings. His regiment helped to liberate a town in France, though he ended up getting shot and losing his life at 17. Mm-hmm. This guy's 22, and
I don't want to talk about it. It hurts my feelings.
It hurts his feelings.
My mental health.
Look, Disney can do whatever they want to do, but when you've got Whoopi Goldberg even coming out and saying this is ridiculous,
well, it's a disservice to the actor too.
It is a huge disservice, and we have to wonder 10, 20, 30 years from now which problematic movies are Disney, is Disney going to try to bury.
I don't know. It depends on the culture of the time. I don't know what's going to be problematic then.
God, everything's problematic. It will be at some point in time. So, are we going to wrap this one up? Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants here on Clownfish TV. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.